Good afternoon, everyone. It is Andy Deyell, your Vice President for Institutional Advancement here at Canisius High School, back with another episode of Conversations with Canisius, our regular web series where we check in with our successful alum all over the United States and all over the world, really, and see what they've been up to since their time at Canisius High School in 1180 Delaware. I am joined today by a very special guest, a local guest from here in Buffalo, Mr. Andrew Valint from the class of 2003. Andrew, how are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for joining us today. Andrew is the Director of Practice Administration at Roswell Park, and we're going to get into sort of what all that means in a second, Andrew. But thanks again for joining us today. And as we always do with these interviews, we start by going back in time, right? So if you're a graduate of the class of 2003, that means at some point in 1999, you were looking around for a place to go to high school. And so tell me a little bit about how you chose Canisius and what led you to the Blue Doors here.
Sure. My grandfather and my uncles went to Canisius High School, and then I went to St. Andrews. So kind of St. Joe's and Canisius were always kind of talked about. I have a brother that's 2 years older, and he was already at Canisius. So I was informed from a young age that Canisius was probably where I was going to end up.
Sure.
But I definitely made that choice, and I was well informed.
Who were some of your big influences on the faculty when you were at Canisius? Teachers that you really enjoyed or that had, made an impact on you.
Sure. Father Zanoni was, I think, my freshman advisement teacher. I think he also taught me math. I mean, he's just super intelligent, super smart guy. You could have a conversation about pretty much everything. He helped us out with the baseball team as well. So he was probably the first one. Father Mattimore was the principal at that time. He was consistently at the Blue Doors, welcoming us in and out. He actually baptized my daughter. And then Mr. Keenan was the dean at the time. And freshman and sophomore year, man, he terrified us with his New York City accent. But by junior and senior year, he treated us like adults, which is really needed when you're that age and you're kind of growing. But he gave us the discipline, and I'll always remember and be thankful for Mr. Keenan for that.
Yeah, and Tom Keenan was one of my very first bosses. My first job coming out of college was at the HAP program back at Canisius, and Tom was running it at the time, and his kids were working it, and just a great guy, and was one of my early influences and early mentors too. So it's great to hear his name out of somebody else's mouth too. So aside from faculty, tell me a little bit about some of the, so you said you were involved in baseball. Any other programs or clubs that you were involved in your time as a student at Canisius?
Sure. Yeah, I played baseball. I played hockey. I think I was the president of Blue Crew. We put the shirts together and all that football games. And I think I was a founding member of the culinary club. So we started that to kind of get on our resumes for college, but we ended up having a ball with it.
That's great. Tell me a little bit about your post Canisius High School experience and sort of your career. How did where you went to college and how you arrived at Roswell as the Director of Practice Administration? And then I'll ask you a little bit about what actually the Director of Practice Administration does.
Sure. So when I got out of Canisius High School, I went to Canisius College. I got a bachelor's in history. Took about a year off. I went to Buff State, got a master's in history, and then I took several years off, kind of worked some different jobs, saw what was going on downtown with the medical corridor. He's in healthcare. My mother's in healthcare. My sister's in healthcare. So I went back and I got a master's in healthcare administration from Utica College.
Wow.
When I got out of there, I joined a private practice as the practice admin, and then 5 years ago, I got hired here to kind of help operations.
And tell me a little bit about that role. What does a Director of Practice Administration do?
All right, so we're not clinical, so our job is kind of business and operations. So we look at patient throughput, meaning from checking into the hospital to having a nurse visit to seeing the doctor, to checking out, to making sure that their next appointments are set, the patient experience, making sure that we have coffee, anything that'll help the experience. And then from the financial and business aspect, we We budget volumes. We're fiscally responsible with what we're spending in the clinics, and we make sure that kind of as a business unit, you're working hand in hand with the clinicians to making sure that we're staying in business.
Nice, nice. And so, how did your time at Canisius, prepare you for this role at Roswell?
Sure. So 100% time management. Canisius High School, the amount of homework that we had was, I mean, it was a bear. I didn't have homework like that throughout any of the colleges that I went to. And now as an administrator, we constantly have different projects that we're working on at the same time, or different priorities, and we constantly have to pivot. And if we don't kind of clear off kind of the low hanging fruit or manage our time, we'll just get buried. So, time management, making sure that we're getting stuff done, so we can prioritize the big projects is probably what Canisius helped me out with.
That's great. And so, other than time management, if you were to look at, consider our alumni today, our young alums who are just getting out of school and starting their careers, our current students, what are a couple pieces of advice you might give to a young gentleman today who's, about to make his way into the world and try to impact it?
I think first off, I'd say that, I know everybody wants to get into the top undergrad schools, but if you can find a school that checks all the boxes, and that might be a little bit better, for you financially, I'd say go that route. I mean, student debt is a real thing. And if you really, really do well in that undergrad school, I mean, you can springboard that to any great secondary school or into, a different career. So first I'd say, kind of look at things, financially, which you probably don't usually do when you're 18.
Right.
And then second, I would say, after you get into college and the years after college, just slow down, enjoy it. I mean, I worked a couple different jobs. I mean, it took me till I was 28 to kind of hone in on my career. But I had so much stress throughout those 20s to try to figure it out. Canisius gives you the fundamentals. Like, you'll get there, you'll succeed. So just enjoy it as much as you possibly can.
Man, those are two great pieces of advice. I really enjoyed what you said about the colleges. I do think there's so much pressure on kids today to get into some of these top schools. But like you mentioned, you can get some of those premium brands in grad school. You just need to find a place where you fit and that can help you start your career, and that is also fiscally manageable for you. And I think sometimes kids try too hard because of some of these expectations. So I think that's really good advice for people to hear. And I also think it's great for people to hear to take their time a little bit. I think like you, I sort of really found out what I wanted to do in my later 20s after trying a few things first, maybe that I decided I wasn't good at or didn't want to do. And I think that trial and error and giving yourself that space as a young adult is such an important and good piece of advice. So thank you for that. How about the future a little bit, Andrew? Tell me a little bit about sort of what the future holds for you, things you might like to accomplish, both, near and sort of longer term. I know, for you, I know a little bit about you, and I know you're growing your family right now, and you have a lot of young children, and 2 young kids and another one on the way. And so that's going to take a lot of your priority, as it should in the near future. But what are some of your other sort of future aspirations?
Sure. So, I mean, at this point, Roswell's a pretty big place. Healthcare is extremely complex. I don't have a set goal, but what I would say is I want to continue to learn, probably take on more responsibility, continue to develop, as a healthcare administrator. You don't know what you don't know. So there's a bunch of different places throughout Roswell as far as, stay in ambulatory, which is kind of an outpatient clinic, or go to inpatient, potentially go out to the PCs, which are kind of some satellite places. So just kind of like build up kind of a bigger resume and take on more responsibility. And all the while, as you mentioned, I have a baby, my wife and I are expecting in a month. So it's going to be family time for foreseeable future. So kind of make sure I balance the professional with the personal.
That's great. Well, we have our alumni weekend coming up in mid-June. I hope to see you there as a local guy. I know I get to see a chance to see you a little bit more than some of the other guys around the country, but we hope to see you there. And I just want to say thank you for spending just a little bit amount of time with us today and just telling us a little bit about your journey and giving us some great advice and some things to think about. And we're very appreciative of the time you spent with us today. And I hope to see you around campus soon, Andrew. Thanks very much.
Sounds good. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, man. We'll see you soon.
Thanks.
Bye.